What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to talk about Outriders Worldslayer, our thoughts on it, endgame, and should you buy it.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the True Nerds Gaming Podcast. We are on episode number 24.
24.
Let's wait for that. We're going to keep this one short. We want to actually get back to playing. So we're going to jump right in. We got 4 topics to go over today. So topic number 1, Dan, I'm going to let you lead it off. The story. What do you think?
Oh, man. It was short, but it was, I think, pretty impactful. It wasn't the greatest writing you've ever seen in this really compelling story, but the visuals that they the set pieces that you were going they took you through were just vast, massive levels. You felt like they were huge. You didn't even use all the space in some of the areas, and the render distance was rendered so far out it just made you feel so small. There was big landscapes and great sunset things. They picked each piece and curated it perfectly. So it was short but focused. I loved it. The story was, once again, it was intriguing and isn't the best story you've ever experienced, but you're always just ooh, what's going to happen next? And then there's that twist and you're just I did not see that coming at all. So I loved it. What do you think?
I did too. I loved it. Outriders as a whole has been funny to me as far as story engagement personally, because you'll be playing the game. Now, I'm talking the original game and Worldslayer expansion. You'll be playing the game, and you'll have a lot of repetitiveness. They're doing the same thing. This happens, then this happens. Okay, now we need to go do this. But then they throw, like you said, that random twist in there, and it just rips you right back in. You're like, oh my God. The developers of this game do a really, really good job of understanding what content they want to deliver and how to deliver the punchlines within the story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's weird because it's very unique. There's really been nothing like this that I can think of. I'm sure there is somewhere, but as far as a video game goes, there's really nothing that's got a story exactly like this. But throughout the campaign, it does start to repeat itself a lot. But then that random curveball is what really throws you in. So the Worldslayer story, if you played the first one, not much has changed. You're still on Enoch. You are still trying to get the hell away from the anomaly. So you're still doing that rinse and repeat. But I would say there's 2 big curveballs in there that just really make the campaign great, and especially towards the end, you kind of got your soft ending, then you got your hard ending, and the hard ending Dan and I just hit, man. We both sat there and we're like, holy shit. Just blew your mind. So I liked it. I did. I caught myself not liking it and then liking it and going back and forth a lot. So go ahead.
I did think that like you said, the hard ending, that they kept the story going straight through. That felt almost like the end game was the extension of the story and really meaningful, which was really cool. Because the first one, it was kind of in the story, but you didn't feel like it progressed the story. You didn't feel attached to the story. You're just running missions to get loot at the end. Where this was everything was cool and you loved getting the loot, but each little piece had a story and expanded it even more. It was kind of like a Destiny raid, where the raid has all this lore surrounding it. But they present it to you a little bit more forward in this game, where you can easily understand it just as you're playing through. All you have to do is listen to the dialogue.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I think it took us about 6 hours to just 6, 7, 8 hours, something like that. I would say closer to 6. I'd have to look. And we did a lot of messing around too, so it is shorter. The DLC is what did we pay? $35.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna buy the game just for the story, and you don't want to play endgame, I would kind of caution you on that. But going into the next thing, we're going to talk topic number 2, big mechanic changes within Worldslayer as well as Outriders, the previous game, or the original game. So a lot has changed. I haven't played the game in a year, and coming back to all these changes, they're very welcoming to even if you just want to play the original game, because it's on Game Pass. If you don't want to play Worldslayer, or you don't want to fork over $35 right now, and you want to just give it a test, they did do a lot of quality of life updates and changes that make endgame a lot more fun. So I'll let you start with that. You got a lot more experience than me. Talking expeditions and apocalypse levels.
For sure. Yeah, so I mean, vanilla started off and like the end game was okay, but they had this big problem design wise, where they put timers on everything on all the expeditions for endgame, and so it forced you to use the max damage loadouts to beat push through and beat like it under the timer, and by extension that left the tank class, the Devastator, behind because they weren't putting out DPS, even though they provided a very great like role, a vital role as the tank and as like somebody who can go around reviving people. It wasn't you like it was more optimal, or it was so much easier to just run 3 straight DPS classes, because then you could just beat the timer. You just kill everything as fast as you can and timer done. So that was kind of like a fundamental kind of design flaw that they had. It was still fun, but it did leave like yourself. You played a Devastator. My brother Michael played a Devastator. It kind of left you behind. And we must have got to challenge tier, like I want to say 8 or 10 with him. And he's just like, I'm not having fun. I think I'm going to change class. I was like, I think you should too. And so we grinded all the way back up to the story, got him a pyromancer all the way up there, and he just had so much more fun playing the game as a DPS class. And then we had a ton of fun together, 2-manning things. The time limit, like I usually hate time limits, but in this game it did work decently well. There was a few. We 2-manned last second kills. It created this epicness that like you can't get without like the timed pressure on everything, right? And so that was a ton of fun. It wasn't as enjoyable, but it does force these epic moments that when you beat it on like just under the timer, you feel very accomplished. So it makes it more rewarding. Then a couple months later, I think like 6 months later, they came out with this really big free update, took the timers away from everything, buffed the legendary drop rate, because that was another thing. Or legendaries, right?
The gold,
legendary,
the gold one.
Gold, yep.
Exotics. I call them exotics. So
right, we call them exotics, but they're legendaries and Outriders. That's where I got confused. They had a really low drop rate, and even with me playing like upwards of 20, 30, 40 hours, I had like 5 on armor and 5, so 5 of each armor and weapons. And it's a game that's all about like taking these perks, right? And so only having access to 5 tier 3 perks, like it just limits your build like so much. And so, and like I wasn't quite at the like challenge tier 15 yet, but I was doing 12s, 13s, 14s, like grinding those, and you just like didn't get legendaries at all. And so then they came out with this free update. They were supposed to have like doubled all the legendary drop rates kind of across the board. And they took away the timer. And so taking away the timer was nice. It made the game more enjoyable. It wasn't like as stressful. You didn't have to work so hard at beating like the next level, or just like carrying people through like a mission. Because like if you were trying to carry somebody through, yeah, good luck. You're booting them if they're not doing enough damage almost immediately. Or you run through. I don't really like boot people, and I'd try. This is the frustrating part. Was I would try. We do it 3 times. I just wasted hour and a half or an hour, and we didn't beat it, and I get 0 rewards, and then I'm leaving. I'm gonna go find a different group that can beat the stuff that I'm trying to. And so it's frustrating as somebody who wants to help lower leveled people like get through some higher tier missions and stuff, and you just like can't, or it's like extremely frustrating because of the timer. So having that gone was a lot more fun. But there was.
I was just gonna say, going into that, I just thought about this because we got a few friends that are thinking about picking up the game. You talked about wanting to help,
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I do really, really, really appreciate in this game that they have changed is one, how the end game works, but two, they combined your challenge tiers with your world tier, and they made it apocalyptic,
Yep.
right?
One
Apocalyptic
tiers now.
tier.
Apocalypse tiers.
Yeah, apocalypse. So at any point, if any of my friends want to get this game, I can go back and keep working towards a newer tier. You get XP up to level 40. So previously it was 15 levels for challenge tiers. Now you go all the way up to 40, and that's a shit ton. Like, you know, how many ever hours we played, I'm only at level 11 or 12, something like
12.
that.
Yeah.
So we got a long ways to go, and I just really appreciate that they actually listen to the community, and they're like, hey, if you want to go back and play with other people, or you want to replay the story, or you want to do the expeditions versus the new end game, you can. You're still going to get loot drops. You're still going to progress your apocalyptic tier, and you know it's not a loss. Because I went and did an expedition today. I went in solo. I dropped my tier level a little bit, and I didn't beat it. I died on some bullshit, and I didn't get anything. I'm like, dude, if I did get XP to my tier, but I was thinking to myself, I'm like, if I wouldn't have got that XP, I would have been so pissed, because that was like 20 minutes. So I can't even imagine if you didn't go up anything in vanilla, it would be super
There were
frustrating.
multiple times that I put in about an hour and like a half or 45 minutes and didn't get anywhere, didn't progress anything. Now they gave you like some drops depending on like how far you got into the
Expedition.
expedition. Yeah, you'd get some like blues at the end or whatever, but almost none of them were legendaries, or none of them were legendaries. A couple of them were epics, and it was all blues. And now you could look at some blues and try and level them up and stuff, and they could be good. But yeah, it just like didn't reward your time that way. And that brings me to my like next point, where they layered systems that you can keep grinding and getting XP for, no matter who you're playing with and what level you're playing on. Right? You have you've got the apocalypse tiers, but you also have the skill points. What are they called?
Mm-hmm. Ascension.
Ascension points. Thank you very much. So
which goes up to
points.
200.
200.
It's crazy.
So you're always like working and progressing towards something, even if you don't beat it, even if you're playing at a lower level with your friends, which is huge. And then it solves the other big criticism that like I think a lot of the streamers and stuff had, was the game rose and died very quickly because people blew through the end game really fast. And then once they got to challenge tier 15, it's like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
There's nothing like left to do. And now you can keep getting the 200 points. You can keep pushing to, I think it actually might go to Apocalypse tier 50 versus.
I thought it was 4. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but one of those two, just a ton of Apocalypse
that
tiers.
is a long time.
Yeah, and then what the way the system works is, because it's global now and it's not separated by world tier and challenge tier, you can go back and play the campaigns on high difficulty.
I love
you can
that.
create your own hard mode that can keep pushing you the entire time, and so you're not just stuck to the some of the repetitiveness of the newest part of the end game. You're not stuck to the repetitiveness of the expeditions. You can go back and grind the campaign and still get like rewards
triangle.
and XP.
You got campaign, you got current end game, and you got previous end game. And it's, you know, if you have friends that are going to jump in and play, I think that's where my money is going to be at, because I love playing with other people, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can kind of intertwine, but like, oh, you know, I think about people like Casey. Casey picked up Outriders and he played like an hour or two. And it's like, if he ever picks it up, you know, we could always jump back in and play with them. Or, you know, if Matt and Caleb get it, that'd be something we could jump in, and you're not going to feel bad like you're wasting your time, because that's where you separate. Like, if you're really involved in a game and your friends pick it up, you're like, I don't want to carry you for 20 hours. Like, that shit sucks to get up to my level. All
Yeah, I
right.
mean, like you could always start like a new character and feel like you're progressing that way with them, but then like yeah, you're just like, but you're not progressing on your main character, and you're like
Right.
starting over fresh, and you only can do that, at least in this game you can do it 4 times, but in
Right.
other games like Destiny or something else, yeah, you're just like, dude, I'm done, I'm burnt out, I'm not getting rewarded for this,
Especially
so.
when you get them up to end game and then they fucking quit the game and you're like, dude,
I just
uh,
spent all this time.
mother.
Um, I mean,
But
it's fun playing with them, but yeah, it can be like a little frustrating when you're like investing a bunch of time to, like trying to help them,
mm-hmm,
and then they're just like, yeah, I've had enough of it, I'm done.
100%. All right, moving on. Topic number 3. I'm just trying to keep the train rolling here. I don't want to keep this super, super long. Current end game and replayability. How are we feeling with it? We did a couple runs so far. So let's talk about our initial. Walk me through our initial end game run. What did
Oh
you
my
feel?
gosh,
What
it
was the
it
hype level at?
you're trying to figure it out because there's these different paths you can kind of go down, or you can choose a left and a right, or you can progress kind of straightforward, and it was just really intriguing and mysterious to figure it out, and okay, what's going to be this like next like kind of like mini dungeon type thing to get us to the next level or phase through this kind of almost like a maze. Not quite. It's more like a straight line with different paths that you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of go through. But it was really fun figuring it all out. And then each piece gives you a little bit of story or a little bit of this. And then when you hit these main points that you have to go through, boss battles or main like throne rooms, oh my gosh, like the visuals are incredible. And then the story that it hits you with, you're just like, I wasn't ready for that at
Yeah,
all.
the story and the end game. Just if you played the first Outriders or the Outriders launch, because you don't need to play the original Outriders to play this. It just gives you a huge respect for the developers. People
Mhm.
can fly. They thought this entire web of lore, and it's just
Mhm.
really cool to kind of see it come together, but also have this huge twist in it. You're like, what in the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
I was like hype level 100. Um, so you talked about they wanted this to kind of be random. So you're going through, you know, there might be a boss here, there might be a horde mode here, leading to this final end game boss, right? That's one playthrough. You might beat it or abandon it and come back in. It's supposed to change.
Mhm.
Do you think they did a good job on that?
I think that's where they probably dropped the ball the most.
Excuse me.
Is it was a lot of fun, but it doesn't change as much as I'd hoped that it
Mm-hmm.
would. And I think that's where, thank God that they kind of incorporated the other systems into the end game process. Because if you just had to run like that end game, if that was like the Destiny raid, the only way you're playing end game is through this, it'd be get very old very quickly. Um, yeah, especially when like you're trying to progress on like a really hard tier, it can get pretty annoying and like frustrating when you've already ran it 5 times, except now it's like harder than it was before.
We showed it last night, so I think this is where they've done everything right. All the mechanic changes we've talked about, incorporating, still being able to play the campaign, the new point systems, the new weapon systems. They've done. We keep saying it. 90% of this expansion has been perfect to the point where we are loving it. The end game does not feel good so far. Now that could change, but I don't think it's going to. It's very I'm just gonna say it's lackluster to me because once you play it once, your first run is just hype 100, and then that second run you're like, I've seen this shit. Now he's just spongier because I'm on a different world tier.
Hmm.
So that's how I felt. I got pretty frustrated last night. I was like, dude, if this is the end game, I'm not gonna be playing this much. But then I thought, I was like, let me go run some expeditions, because you brought it up a good point. You said this is more for like keying in on specific gear drops you want, because say you can look at the map and be like, hey, this guy drops arms or hands, this guy drops a chest. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. But if you just want to grind loot, you can still go back and do the expeditions and know you're going to get that kind of horde mode feel. So I want to jump back in and play those more. But the first end game playthrough was really, really good for me. Like, it's still worth my money. I'm not saying it's not, but that second one, I was, like you said, hoping it changed. And when it didn't, I was like, dude, you missed the mark, man. They just missed the mark. So I think that's what you got for a feeling, but
Yeah, and they had some really great bosses throughout the entire campaign. And the last boss, well, the boss in like the I guess like the final boss in the end game was really good. It was like had some cool mechanics. It was a lot of
one
fun.
time.
One time. And then it was like, I don't know. And I think they could have yeah, rotated out bosses that they had previously in the end game into this like kind of like dungeon crawler roguelike type thing. And I think it would have been a lot more enjoyable. Now, as we continue to play it, we don't have to progress through the entire thing and go to the boss through all the bosses. We can just hit like our targeted loot sections, abandon it, come back in, keep hitting the targeted loot spots, because it is extremely rewarding. It showers loot on you.
Yes,
like way more than the expedition does. Like, it rewards your time better. It's just not varied enough farther once you get farther in. The beginning is, you can like pick and choose, and it's pretty varied, or decently varied, I guess, to where it wouldn't just be mind-numbingly repetitive. But once you get farther down, yeah, it's kind of all the same, and it kind of stinks that they didn't swap out some other bosses, or change some of the boss mechanics, or kind of like do some different things like that, or throw some more ads in, or different ads in to like vary up each kind of like stage or thing, because it rewards you a ton. And then like the farther you go through, the more rewarding it is, the higher stat stuff you're gonna get. And so I think it will be something that we go back to and push through on higher tiers, but I don't think it's going to be the only thing that we're
gonna do,
grinding through, to get our apocalypse tiers.
I think I want, if I'm gonna do this, if we want to just rush all the way to the end boss, I'd say either lower the apocalypse tier to have fun with it. Because dude, like last night, our last run, we're like, it was boring, man. You're just sitting there hitting bullet sponge enemies. You're like, okay.
Yeah, it had the division problem where everything was really bullet spongy.
Yes.
Right, and you're just unloading clips into things, and they don't die. Now, part of that gets fixed like when we get our builds better.
Synergy.
Yeah, but yeah, for sure, it doesn't like always feel the greatest. And I think lowering it down to do that activity specifically, just to get the loot that you're like trying to go for, and then leveling that loot up to your current level makes way more sense than trying to spend an hour and a half going through the whole thing on the max tier versus just doing expeditions to raise your apocalypse tier.
So I went back today and I respec my character, and I had a lot of fun doing that. That's a point to how they've changed stuff. I respec my character, put my ascension points differently. We didn't mention PAX points. You got PAX points now, so there's 3 tiers of points that we don't need to get into details about it, but there's 3 different tiers of points that you can do and mix and match, and try different builds. The only thing saving this expansion right now, they crushed the custom build. What's the word I'm thinking of?
The build crafting.
Yeah, thank you. Build crafting. They crushed it, dude. Like, you can get so creative with this.
And each class has so many different abilities, and then all those abilities have perks that completely change the way they play or buff the way they play, and you can pick different ones that synergize with each other.
And then your gear has different mods on it. They did so good, and that's the thing that's saving this right now. because I respect, and then I went and did an expedition, and I had so much fun. So, you need to understand that you're probably not just going to grind the new end game. You're going to go back and play old content, which is okay. The game, what they released with this DLC, if you look at any other game, like any looter shooter, they have way more than what most expansions have. But, we're just kind of hoping that they kind of got their traction going on this, because the game, it didn't flop. It's got a really big following, or not a really big following, but a good following. I think we're just all hoping for a little bit more. So that will take us right into the fourth topic. Or actually, closing remarks. Do we recommend a buy right now? $35, $40.
I think if you liked Outriders, then yeah, it's worth it. I think if you haven't, now's not a bad time to jump in, because you're experiencing it all new, and it almost like this expansion kind of just connect or like plugs right into the previous one and really gives you a complete package the whole way through. How they redid the whole, like, everything. And so as you're grinding up through all the campaigns, you're working through the same apocalypse tiers as you're going to get to end game. Now you're experiencing all the different end games that you have. It's a very full featured thing now, and I'm pretty sure you can get the whole package, this expansion and the full game, for like $60, or
I don't even think it's that. I think it's 50.
Yeah, even cheaper. So if you're into looter shooters and you had your eye on Outriders, I think it's a great time to just fully come in. And then like you said, like, it's on Game Pass. If you haven't played it, like, you can play the base game for free, get all the way through the story of the base game, and then decide if you want to, like, put your money in and get the end game experience. But it was really awesome. They poured their heart and soul into some of the visuals. They really doubled down on, like, the few points that they picked a few points, and they're like, these are the things we're going to try and fix, these three. And they really did that. Now they're just missing 10 more percent,
Yep.
I think. But yeah, if you already played the crap out of Outriders in the beginning, and you're looking for this really big, vast, and new expansion, it's not going to be that. And you're going to be playing some of the previous content again to, like, enjoy yourself. And so if you're already burnt out on all the previous stuff, then it's going to be a tough sell for that price. Maybe wait for a sale, or maybe wait for their next update, because they've been known to, like, save up a bunch of updates and kind of put it in. But I'm loving it. I'm really happy that I purchased it.
Yeah. So going into my opinion on this, like you said, if you played the original game, just, played it through 20, 30 hours, this is worth the money. You're going to if you like that, you're going to really love this. You can go back and you can play all the expeditions. You can do the new content. It's an own, right? Like, I'm having a blast playing it. I'm thinking about the builds. Like Dan said, if you already grinded, wait for a sale. It's not a buy now. Wait for a sale. That's just my take on it. It's not worth $35
for the amount of only new content that they put into a game.
Yeah, I would say $20 is a fair price. $35, no. But now for people like me who didn't play Endgame on Outriders originally, yes, totally worth $35, because I'm going to get a lot of content out of this. I'm going to get all new loot drop percentages while I'm going back and playing the old content. It's going to be worth it for me. Or people like Dan who absolutely love the game, yes, buy it now. But if you already put your time into it, I would wait. If you haven't played it all, Game Pass it. See what you want to get. You're going to get at least 20 hours out of it. So
for sure.
But yeah, that's all I got, man. This was great. I want to jump on a play right now. So
heck yeah.
You got anything else, or are you going to give the people
Stay nerdy
what they want? Take care, everyone.